regular school board meeting, 6:30, Castleton, Old Slate Valley School Board. Tonight we're at Castleton Elementary School. So Kim, thanks for hosting us. Let's first rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so just a quick count. There's 9 board members here in person, and who's online here tonight?
Glenn, Becca, Tanya, Christine.
Ryan?
Oh, and Christina, yes, too.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All righty, so the first order of business would be to approve this agenda. The motion? So moved.
Second.
Are any changes, additions to the agenda?
You just want to move the student presentation up.
Sure. Why don't we move the student presentation to right after number 3 before public comment. Just allow the families and kids to present. All right. If nothing further, all those in favor of approving the agenda with that movement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Next, looking for a motion to approve the minutes from March 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections or discussion on those minutes? All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes from March 14th, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, so as noted, student presentation, I'll hand it over to the principal of ES, Kim Prahota, to introduce the kids.
All right, welcome. I have a couple of fourth graders, Chase and Lotus. I'll be sitting right in front of Lotus. And just real quickly, when CBS came up here and joined us, it had to be the dead of winter when we couldn't always be outside for gym class when we had one gym and Mrs. Clark would need PE classes and Miss Blackburn would need PE classes. So thankfully, we have some very creative people who came up with some other ideas. So we have with us Tina Rampone, Kathy Clark, Lisa Cacciatore, and Rodney Bachelet. And I'm going to turn it right over to Kathy so she can talk about it.
Well, thank you for inviting me here to help highlight a really exciting adventure I kind of went on with my colleagues. It was one of the days, like driving down, it's 22 degrees. It's like, I'm psyched, I'm all right. I can go outside, come in, and then like Kim has always told me, go to what feels like, and it feels like 7. Like, okay, shoot, all right, they go to plan B. All right, plan B is the gym. Gym's not available because Riley's there, so plan C is here. So we set all this up and there's everything. I do the phys ed classes and it's like not what you wanted to plan. As I'm taking everything out and stuff, it's like, oh, I've got another class this afternoon. It's still too cold. It's a bunch of kindergartners who have never been outside all day, so they want to do PE in the classroom. And I'm like, oh, I just hit the wall. So I go to my go-to place, which is the coach's lounge. These guys are in. And I go and I said, I need help. I need some help. And they're like, and the 2 of them are talking about 5th grade who just finished a virtual unit on countries. And Tina's enlightening, like they went to their countries virtually. It's like, how did they do that? And I was all excited. I said, oh, I'm bummed. I really I want to do something. So these two stepped right up, said, okay, we got this going. We got these goggles and everything, VCR, I don't even know what they're called now. VR. They're all set. Next thing I know, Lisa's on the computer. She's emailing Rodney to set up the days. Kathy, what day can you do it? It's like, Monday, Thursday, Friday. Tina's going, great. I'm available. I can help you. We got this library. So it's all like, and I haven't done a thing other than complain. So it was a really neat experience. We had 4 different places for stations for the kids to do it. I've only done R&D,
VR.
VRs. Obviously.
Like virtual.
And I'm not the most tech savvy person, obviously, you can understand that already. So they're setting it all up. We've got one station with a climbing wall, which is actually lending itself to what I'm doing right now, which is awesome. There was another fencing one. Help me with the other three.
The pinata, party pinata.
They had drawn,
They actually have to run in place.
Yeah.
You'll see it in the little video.
and there was
And then
some meters.
Yep, and then boxing.
Boxing. So they worked out really well. We also had a nice, what do you want to call it?
Non-tech.
Non-tech, which was the climbing, which was building things. And there was also, we had some chairs for the kids to sit down. That was something that was enlightening to me because after the kids got off their virtual, some of the kids, you could just see they're spinning and they needed to take a break. And it was kind of nice that they highlighted, they knew that. And so we were able to take a break and it worked out. Out of every class, every 5 minutes, we have like 15, 16 kids. Every single one of them got to go to all 4 spaces within that time. And I got to see the whole school 2 days. So it was an awesome experience. And Walter, you have, okay.
Oh.
That little. So you can see there's a lot of movement going on. He's climbing. The chase something. Candy. This is the climbing one, which
Oh, that-
you'll get
yeah.
the space.
Twitter.
Oh.
Did you know?
Cute.
It's also something you have to be reminded that the opportunity was there because of these individuals. I wouldn't have been able to go there at all doing that, and it certainly changed my mindset, especially for that day. It got me into a really good spirit, and it's nice to know that they're always there to help me, and it's a valuable resource. And even the other coaches I've used, went to the lower elements at the high school, and they all come enjoy it. So it's a really valuable resource. So we'd like to show you some of this. Come on over, or we'll.
Guys, that was a lot of fun. So we'll move on now to public comment. I don't see any public here in person outside of our parents with the kids. Is there anyone attending virtually from the public who has a comment? If so, please unmute and identify yourself. Last call, public comment online. Questions, Brooke?
Nope.
All right, committee reports. We'll start with Tanya, the head of the policy committee.
Sure. Hi. So we met tonight. We discussed two policies. So we would like to warn two policies tonight. And I think they all went around on email to the whole board already. There was, so we'd like to warn policy F27, communicable disease mitigation measures for students and staff. And this is a new policy kind of replacing temporary COVID policies with something a little bit broader. And we'd also like to warn policy C9, the Federal Child Nutrition Act Wellness, which you had two versions of in your packet, and one of them was more trimmed down. Basically, it's an existing policy, but some of the material in it is moved out of it so it can become procedures rather than policy. So it's a simpler policy to read. But
Well, do you want to make a motion, Tanya? Start with the first
Yeah.
there?
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to warn policy F27.
Second.
And I guess I didn't read the policy beforehand. Is there a quick summary about the communicable disease one, what the changes are, or what's?
Well, it's basically a new one,
It's-
essentially.
It's new.
It's just,
Is there a quick summary or no? I'd have to read
it's
it.
just, it's a very basic scope of how we'd handle any communicable disease, including COVID, chickenpox, hepatitis, so any of those things. And it talks about the health education and privacy rights of students and staff, and then just universal precautions that we would take, which would be in line with Vermont Occupational Safety and Health Administration, VOSHA. So, and then, depending on this, we would have different procedures that would fall under this, depending on the communicable disease.
Are there any other questions? All right, all those in favor of warning that policy, is there a number to it?
F27.
F27, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed? Okay, Tanya, go ahead with your second motion.
Sure. So the second motion is to warn policy C9, the Federal Child Nutrition Act Wellness, which was the one where it's a trimmed down version of an existing policy.
Second.
Questions or discussion on policy C9? All right, hearing no further questions or discussion, all those in favor of warning policy C9, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, anything else from the policy committee, Tanya, of note?
Nothing right now. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. All right, and now we'll go over to buildings and grounds. Is that Peter, still you?
Yeah.
All right.
We had a virtual tour of the middle school. I like wearing those head things. So we got to see how it's coming. Demolitions all done. They're starting to put stuff back together. Everything's coming together good. We're on track to where we should be. So that looks good. We talked about the elevator a little bit. The drawings are basically done for the elevator. Hopefully next, we'll have numbers for it pretty soon for that. And then the village school's all back together, and the students are moved back in, and that all came back together good. And they did find mold, so it was good we got it all done. That's it. That's the question.
Covered it.
All right, no questions for Peter, buildings and grounds? All righty, thanks, Peter. Next, we'll move on to correspondence. Brooke, any correspondence of note?
No.
Okay, we're moving right through this tonight. Contract list, that was
I got a new one.
Yeah, there was,
And I think there's also an error in that one, so I want to talk, I want to talk
Yeah.
about it. I don't.
all right, so I think it was Deb Robbins had sent out a revised resignation and contract list towards the end of the day.
Yep,
So
I
I
have it.
think at the top is a resignation
Yep.
from Catherine Lucia. Julie, do you have her letter? Do you want to read the letter or?
I don't think we need to read it, do you? We can. I have the letter that's in the original packet.
Mhm.
Let's see. Right here. So this is resignation of Catherine Lucia. Lucia.
Yeah.
All right. Lucia, special educator, says, "Dear Ms. Brooke Olson Farrell, please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation from my current position as special education teacher at FHUHS at the conclusion of the 21-22 school year. After careful consideration, my family and I decided I need to take a position closer to home. I've greatly enjoyed my time working at Fairview High School and will cherish the personal connections that I've made over the past 4 years. And she can be reached with any further questions." So motion to accept her resignation.
Second.
Any questions about the resignation? All right. Hearing nothing further, all those in favor of approving the resignation of Catherine Lucia, special educator, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So I'm also looking here, Brooke, no contracts. but
No, there
letters
is
of
one.
intent.
So actually, I met with a bunch of new hires today, so there's been some late breaking news in that regards. Chris Schuyler, special educator, he actually is going to be able to start this year, which we have an open position. So I'd like to move him under the 2021, 2022 contracts, and it would be for a salary of $63,668, which would be prorated based on his start date, which we believe right now tentatively is April 28th.
So I make a motion to accept the contract as stated by Brooke under 21-22 contracts.
Second.
Any questions on the contract for Chris Schuyler for this current year?
Where's he gonna work, bro?
At the high school. Yep. Where we've been short positions this year.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing nothing, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, and then I make a motion for 2022-2023 letters of intent for Tracy Cross Baker, school counselor. And do I have to do them separately? No, I can do them together. And Jessica Ransom, special educator.
Second.
And Chris also for next
No,
year?
well, yeah, but you don't need that because you're fine
Okay.
where you did.
So Julie with the motion, Tony with the second. Are there any questions on the two letters of intent for next year?
I would just say that Tracy is online with us tonight, so.
She's what?
She's online.
Oh, and she's school counselor at the high school?
She would be the school counselor at
The
the high
third
school
school
next
counselor at the
year,
high school
the
next
third one.
Okay, great. Yep, awesome.
And school counselor, is that guidance?
Yes.
Is that
Yes,
career preparation? Is that behavior? I mean, it's.
guidance,
It's everything. It's guidance.
essentially, yes. Should be joining the guidance office.
All right, any other questions? All right, hearing no other questions, all those in favor of approving the two letters of intent for next year, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And then no retirements, no leaves of absences. So the contract is complete and they're all set there.
We're all set there for now.
All righty. Field trip request, I believe, was in the packet for Castleton Village School trip to Boston. Guess I would like a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, concerns about the field trip for CVS request to Boston?
Eighth grade.
Yes.
All right, hearing nothing further, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, next we had clerk appointments. There was a letter from Liz McKay requesting to serve in that capacity for one additional year. And that was required because she was not, or no one else was on the ballot to be voted
Right,
in.
I mean, you could appoint her until the next annual meeting.
Okay,
So I make a motion to appoint Liz McKay clerk until our next annual meeting.
Second.
questions or concerns about Liz and the clerk? And again, I always get confused. Did she first have to go to the Castleton Select Board to then be
No.
referred to us, or she
No.
came directly to us?
Directly to you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, if no other questions, all those in favor of approving Liz McKay to be the district clerk until our next meeting or our next annual meeting, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Budget revote, communication.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask each of the principals in a minute to speak about what they're doing locally in reaching out to the community around the budget revote, but I'm just going to talk generally from the district perspective right now. We are, I believe this week, sending out, we're going to send out 2 flyers. One is the longer version of the flyer that we typically send out. It's pared down a little bit more. And then the week before the vote, we are just going to send out a postcard, just highlighting the high points. Christina sent us a template after the last meeting, and so our communications person used that template as the base, and I can certainly send both of those documents to you all, but that is something that will be sent out right before the vote. I have been we've sent a press release to local papers. There was the Mountain Times picked it up last week, so we've been talking with the different news outlets. We are currently working on kind of a did you know thing for social media. I am working with one of our local papers on trying to get a regular column in there, just talking about the schools. And our principals also have some other things that they're working on in terms of the building. But what we're really seeing by and large is our parents didn't vote and some of our staff didn't vote. So really what we need to do is get out the vote. I think in talking with a lot of different community members over the last several weeks, I think there's some minds we're just not going to change. And it has, in some cases, it has nothing to do with the school district and what we're doing with our budget or not doing. So it just has to do with state and, taxes in general. So there's some minds that we're not going to change, but we do need to encourage more participation from our parents and our staff in terms of voting. The NEA, Josh Martin, our union president, is working with the state NEA on making sure that all of the union members who live in this district, whether or not they work in the district, get out and vote. So they're also launching a campaign to really get out the vote on April 13th. I mean, by and large, what we're seeing is there was just a sense of apathy and people just didn't vote. And when we have low voter turnout, we typically don't pass budgets. So we need to get the vote out. So I don't know if you want to go in any order, or you want me to just have each of the principals kind of speak to what they're doing in their buildings real quick.
Sure, you can call them.
Patrick, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'd be glad to go first. OVS has a 3-pronged communications plan to help get the vote out to our community. I've enlisted the aid of our 2 parent organizations, the Booster Club and the Community Action Network, to increase the number of parents of our students that go to the polls. I've met with each of the heads of the organization, and I've discussed several talking points with each of them. I'm also including a section in Your Vote Counts in our weekly news blasts. And lastly, we're displaying a notice of the importance of voting on our sandwich board along Main Street in front of the school And we're also talking directly to parents during arrival and dismissal.
Ben, do you want to talk about the high school?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So some of the same things like Patrick mentioned, we have a newsletter that actually one that went out today that has a lot of information on the revote. We'll have some more going out before the vote. We're planning on broadcasting some emails and robocalls as we get closer to the date. We're organizing some voter registration drives to do with our mostly seniors, might be a few juniors, to get them registered, make sure that they're able to get out and vote. We have a potluck coming up this week, actually, with families to discuss broader school issues. And it's one of the things we're going to discuss is the larger issue is just discussing equity, but we're going to bring up, how there's equity within the budget and how that's an important piece to address as you think about moving forward with the budget. And we've had conversations with faculty and staff. Our last faculty meeting, it was a pretty big topic talking about it. And it's going to continue to be as we draw near.
Thanks. Jen Paquette is going to fill in for Deb, who's a little under the weather tonight. So.
Hi there. Deb sends her apologies for not being here. We've already talked with our faculty, and being that the revote will be held in our building, it'll be very easy for us to support staff who are residents and making sure they have an opportunity to get down and vote. We're going to make sure that we have some signage out front to start to let the community know that we are the location of the revote. At our last safety meeting, we talked with our SRO about just, getting the word out through our local PD and then having a presence both just to be there and also to support with parking, which can sometimes be an issue with Fairhaven Grade School. There's a PTO meeting next week that Deb plans to attend to really recruit our PTO members to get them out and encouraging people to vote using both their social media network and their relationship network that they have with community members in town. And the date of the revote is also the same night as our concert. So we will be advertising both of those and trying to encourage even parents that want to come in and vote prior to going down to the concert. So that'll be going out on social media, in our newsletter, which I think is going out next week. And also we have to talk with our students. It's been a long time since our students have seen that many people in the building. So letting them know what's going on in developmentally appropriate ways, but also hoping that maybe in sharing that with students, they're going home and talking with their families about voting and school and stuff like that. So that may encourage a little bit more participation also.
Thanks, Jen. Amy?
So much like everyone else, at Edison, we have a blast going out in our Friday packet before the vote that goes to all our families. We're also sending a paper reminder in backpacks. We've had our school sign out with the vote date on it for a week now. We'll be putting up different Facebook posts, just trying to engage the parents that way. We're going to do a robocall the night before from the school itself, and then we've had it in the fairs for staff members as well.
And then Kim.
So we will be sending it out the next couple of weeks in our weekly communication, our Thursday packets, we call them in Castleton. We haven't done that before. We're also putting it in my monthly newsletter that'll go out next week. Haven't done that before either. Already having a lot of conversations with staff about the fact that they didn't vote. And the importance of voting. So we'll be doing reminders to staff as well. And then one of the most favorite parts of my day is at morning arrival and dismissal. And I have a unique opportunity to say to all of them, vote and remind them. And that's going to be a large group of parents. So look forward to doing that too.
And Phil can do something similar at the village school as well, I would imagine.
We're doing pretty much all of those. And then I thought the robocall was coming from the district. We had talked about that. Facebook posts, Josh does those district-wide too, so that was for all of ours.
Okay. So now we're just gonna have some general discussion. If any board
Yeah.
members have things they want to share or ideas.
Can I just have a clarification? Jen was mentioning that the vote's going to be at the school.
It
It-
is.
Okay, but this warning in here says the American Legion Post 49.
What warning?
Well, not warning, but the part of the packet that you guys that sent out.
Oh, yeah,
Just that-
there was a correction in that, the actual warning.
Okay, so
That's the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was,
So now it's going to be at Fairhaven Grade
yes,
School.
because there's bingo at the Legion.
Oh, there is on Wednesday. Right. Oh dear, you could get a lot of people to vote. I mean,
Really?
yeah, catch them while they catch
No,
them while they
they weren't able to host us.
Are you on the bingo circuit yet?
We're almost on the Wee Bowling
Never.
circuit, Tim, so give us some time.
No. Tim, I like to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Bingo doesn't end till about 9:30. Wouldn't work for me. Thank you.
And we'll post a sign at the Legion saying.
Yeah, 'cause I
you
bet you a
know,
lot of people will
Right,
go
we'll
go
just
there.
instinct,
Yeah.
right,
Yep,
correct.
knowing it's there, but that makes sense. Yep.
All right, anyone here in person have any ideas, thoughts about how to get the word out to vote, not to revote?
No, but can I ask, is there a reason why we haven't done this before? Like this? Like Kim's like, I've never done that before, and I've never done that before. Like, is there a reason why we haven't? So I'm hoping it stays. I'm hoping it's something that we do, you know,
First
whenever
try.
there's a vote,
Right.
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, no, I'm just saying, I think that it's all great ideas, but I'm a little surprised that we haven't done anything like this before. And I'm happy that we're doing this. And we'll see if our, as I said last meeting, our same no's are our same no's. We just have more people who took the time to vote and it goes up. I also have reflected a lot since last meeting on why I'm so upset about reducing it by a mere $33,500. And I'm not gonna lie, I have thought a lot about why Fairhaven Union High School is in the position it's in. And it's in the position it's in because the Fairhaven Union High School Board reduced their budget by minuscule amounts year after year after year to get people to vote yes. And we are in this position because of that. And I just caution us as we move forward with this large budget, that we don't keep doing this so that we don't end up in the exact same position that we're in right now, trying to cover our rear ends in different kinds of ways to fix things that need to be fixed. So I thought a lot about it. I thought a lot, as you can tell, a lot about like why I was so, I'm nervous for us as a group. I know in my line of work, when you give money back or you don't use what you have, you don't get it back. And the expectation is that we will not see it again. It might be $33,000 now. It makes me nervous. So I felt like I needed to share that because I did think a lot as to why I was so upset last meeting. And it seems so little, $33,500. You do that year after year after year, you're in a hole. And I caution us, and that's all I want to say.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too, to an extent, but I mean, there's this urgency in play though, you know, I mean, we don't have time at this point, in my opinion, at least, to rehash an overall philosophy and approach to our budget. You know, we got to get something back out to the voters and hopefully it can pass. You know, your ideas, Peter's ideas, I think those are really best served in a larger discussion over the summertime, well in advance to even talking about next year's budget, about what types and how much investment we're going to make to the budget going forward, you know? Because I agree with both of you guys that we can't continue to keep cutting. We need to start making investments, identifiable investments into our budget. And, you know, what's our strategy in doing that?
And I appreciate that, Tim, because I worry about the message we send. And if we're going to send a message where we want to put money into programs and we want to put money into infrastructure and we want to make sure that we're a solvent, you know, school district, then we need to start that conversation before the budget instead of after the budget, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
So these conversations we're having right now about how we're getting out the vote are the same conversations we should be having about why we're going to invest or why we're going to do things forward. Putting things in newsletters, saying things to parents should be something that we're doing once we've developed a message before the budget and we start doing that earlier. So I agree. I'm excited to hopefully see us approach this differently in the next fiscal year.
Are there any board members online who have any thoughts that they want to share about getting the vote out for the revote, getting the word out for the revote? Ready? I think we have one more meeting before.
April 11th.
April
Yep.
11th, okay.
And then our informational meeting's the 12th,
So back to back.
back to back, 2 nights in a row.
Okay. Alrighty, well, thank you to the principals for taking all these extra steps for getting the word out and trying to encourage participation among staff and parents.
And thanks to the NEA for stepping up too and talking to teachers from that side. I appreciate that too.
All right, so we'll move on. Next subject matter, which is the last day of school. Brooke has a memo, she has a recommendation. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so you should all have the last day of school memo contractually. Just as a reminder, we have 180 student days with an additional 6 professional development days for teaching faculty, and support staff has a total of 184 days, 180 student days for additional PD days. The state requires 175 student days unless a waiver has been granted. I did request a waiver this year specifically for Castleton Village School as a result of the flooding. Those days were waived. So, and I did request a waiver for Castleton Elementary School for 1 day too, as that was also a result of the flooding and needing to move students up here. So since I wrote the memo, it has been approved by Secretary French. So those days were forgiven. So that leaves 4 days that collectively all of the schools within Slate Valley were closed either due to COVID or weather conditions, and based on those extraordinary circumstances that we faced this year, as well as trying to transition middle school students to a new middle school in the fall and making sure teachers have adequate time together, planning time to do that. I am recommending that the last teacher day be June 23rd. I skipped the last student day would be June 17th, which would be an early dismissal. And that would be 177 student days. Last teacher day is the June 23rd, 186 days. Special educators' last day would actually be the 22nd because they come in a day earlier in August and are forgiven a day at the end. And then we also have middle school teachers who have been required to attend extra events this year above and beyond what our other staff has, just due to the transition of the middle school. And so I would ask that their last day be June 22nd if they've done above and beyond the 5 evening events and the parent conference cycles. And then the last support staff day would be Monday, the June 20th. So that would be my recommendation for the end of the year, assuming we have no more school cancellations.
I make a motion to accept the last day as June 17th for students and all the other info.
Second.
Is there any question or discussion? I have a couple questions. So first off, thanks to you, thanks to teachers and principals, and it's just amazing to me that, we didn't have the choice this year like we did previous year, but the fact that we only had 4 days, COVID and weather, where we were not open is quite a accomplishment. So that's really good. It's really good. And then, are teachers going to be allowed to collaborate or work additional times over the summer in preparation for the transition to the middle school?
The middle school teachers, I will defer to Casey or Ben, or even, I don't know if Kate's online on that. They certainly will. Every in-service day that we've had this year since January, those middle school teachers have been together. And our elementary teachers have also been working in their new pre-K 6 configurations to get ready for next year. So the second half of the year has been very focused on next year. But I'll defer to Casey as to the built-in time for the summer.
Yes,
There is any.
just emailed Kate and Ben today. I worked over the weekend to try to find places within existing grants that I manage just for that, for folks that were interested to be able to spend time together, because it's not only curricular in nature, there's a lot of getting to know your colleagues and developing systems and structures that are very new. So I know Kate had a meeting with their two, I guess, lead teacher leaders. There's one for 7th grade and one for 8th grade, and that was part of their conversation today. So actively planning for that work over the summer.
And that money has to come out of some sort of grant. We don't have anything available within our budget to give teachers extra daily stipends if they choose to. No?
Not right now, not in
Built
this
that
budget.
in. Part of the other issue is with the school year ending, say, on June 22nd, and then funds not being available for us until July 1st, potentially, it does allow some teachers, because it's always hard to coordinate schedules. So usually the best time, even though people are pretty tired, is to do it kind of quickly after, so that then you can go on July 1st and kind of do your summer thing.
Yeah.
So it, you know, as Julie spoke about, and kind of building budgets in the future, if that's something we wanted to prioritize, certainly is something that is useful for teachers to have that built in locally, as opposed to always try to navigate some grant funding for it. But
Yeah.
we're in a good place for this year, so
All right, thanks.
that's how we'll operate.
Are there any other questions about the motion with the last day of school? Anyone online? Questions? Alrighty, if there's nothing further, all those in favor of approving the last student day to be June 17th, along with the other components of the motion for the staff, please say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Okay, moving next to strategic planning.
So yeah, I just wanted to update you on the process that we're continue to go through for strategic planning. I think I believe I put in the board packet our current strategic plan and our mid-year progress report that we shared. I think it was January or February. We shared that with you in a central office report, but I just wanted to make sure that you had that again. I also wanted to make sure that you had our infographic, and we have a brochure about Slate Valley. We've passed those out in the past, at least the brochure. The infographic, I believe we went over in a PowerPoint on line. And so I just want to make sure you remember what we do have out there. And we do have an entire web page on our website that's devoted to all of this stuff. So this is what we're starting to talk about with different groups, stakeholder groups. We're getting feedback right now from students currently. Principals are doing a great job facilitating that with the staff. And we have met with the staff group. We have a parent group and some community members next. I think it's April 5th, where we'll be soliciting feedback. I know some of you board members have signed up to do that. Certainly, I'll send out the meeting notice, and certainly you're welcome to come. We would love to have your feedback. And it's not that we're going to scrap what we're currently doing and go in an entirely different direction. It's about revising what we're currently doing, and due to the difficulty of the last several years with COVID is kind of just taking a pause and reassessing where we're at and moving forward. So it's certainly not that we're scrapping any of this, but I think it deserves a look and some consideration based on what everyone's been through. So that's kind of where we are with that, and I can send out more information on that, but I don't know if people have questions on that.
And wasn't there something in the packet about the results? Of
The survey
I
results,
know
yes.
John had some questions, or he had asked that the results be mentioned, or those are separate from the strategic plan?
No, we do it as part of the process. So like when the parents meet the parent group meets to talk about it, next week we'll talk about those survey results. I mean, so I'm certainly happy to talk
Do you
about
have
them
on
with
the big
you.
Screen today?
I don't.
No?
We can. I mean,
I
it's
didn't-
part of the whole protocol that we go through. Where I'm happy to do it like with the whole board, but it'll take probably an hour
Okay.
or so. So I don't.
You cool with that, Tara?
Nope. So that's why I'm saying I'm inviting you to Tuesday night
Okay,
to
so
be
the-
part of that process, but
The results will
certainly,
be discussed at
yes,
the meeting
yes,
next
I
week.
hand those out. We talk about them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing about I was just looking at the results and I thought it was kind of odd that, the after-school programming and the summer programming, the parents have the lowest
I know.
of it. But it seems like most anybody I talk to want it.
I know. Casey and I
Who's answering
commented
the
on that, I
questions?
guess.
Who's talking to
I
you?
guess
Yeah.
just this morning we were talking about that. So who's filling out the survey, right? Like, because we're not collecting names unless you're putting them in there. I don't know who's filling out the survey, if it's the same demographic that's
Yeah.
attending our after-school programming, because it is a huge cost to the district. And as we move forward, next year we will have grant funds, but after that, we will not have grant funds to sustain that. So,
But it seems to be a big hit because, I mean, Orwell's a big hit.
right. And in other buildings, it's not, we are trying to also get some additional funding sources. The Boys and Girls Club are with Vermont 21C grant, which we won't know till April, I think the end of April. Yeah, only 102 people took the survey, so I don't
know
know
that.
who those
102 are
I know.
102 are.
after-school
So-
care.
Right.
Christine?
That's all I was going to say is that the parent population that took the survey was not very high for the number of students in the district. So that might be why you have that result.
Right. I mean, I would say typically percentage-wise, though, that is typically, it is what we get back on surveys typically.
Which makes it hard to plan because how do you plan on 102 people,
Correct.
right? You
Right.
can't use these responses as like the Bible
Right.
if you only have 102 people out of 1,000 plus.
Well, yeah, right.
It's about 1 in every 7 families. We have about 750 to 60.
Because they're
Got that.
families,
Right, I
because
understand.
remember, right, they might have several kids in the school
So
system.
yeah, 1 out of 7, yeah.
So it does. I mean, it continues to be engagement. How do we engage the community in the conversation across the board?
So first of all, thank you for putting the survey results in our board packet. That-
Yep.
It was informative, although, it was a small sample size. But it's interesting looking at the community here. As far as communications, I believe they prefer email updates. So that's who we got.
Yeah,
We didn't,
Right.
people don't check their email.
correct,
Right.
correct.
And the piece you put in about the strategic plan was great. And I learned some things from it. I didn't realize we had something called Edgenuity that, for online courses and like free SAT prep. I mean, how do we communicate that with parents or students?
Yeah, I think that's something we have to get better at, right? I mean, I think that's a daily struggle in every district, and I think the volume of communication, the volume of information that we're trying to communicate, so how to choose the right thing to communicate to the right audience.
And obviously something like that's pretty targeted to a
Right.
subset of all of our families.
Yep. So I know central office, we have 2 days, we call it a leadership, well, I call it a leadership retreat, but it's not a retreat. We are going to be talking about our communications plan and how do we improve that as part of that. We are going to talk about strategic planning. So we're going to be talking about many of these elements, and then we're going to be talking with the entire leadership team about that. So, it is something we're constantly trying to revisit. It's never going to be perfect, but we just have to keep trying new ways and how we can get better at it, for sure.
It says that the committee's composed of just one board member.
That's the actual planning. They're taking all the feedback. Yep.
So that doesn't mean that only one of us can go to the meeting.
No, there's focus groups and then there's a strategic planning committee. So you can go to the focus groups and then just one board member would be bringing that information back to the planning committee that actually is compiling it all and putting it, well, I'm compiling it all, but
Someone who's like appointed to be that person? Or-
yeah, so you guys can decide who wants to be
Can I
that
ask
person.
who plans on going to the meeting next week? A board member? People who filled out the survey?
I do, Tim. This is Becca.
Hi, Becca?
I do, Tim.
Yeah, I heard you.
And I plan
This is
to too.
Christina. I plan on going.
Okay, two Christinas?
Yep, Christine and Christina. Yep.
Okay. All right. I mean, can I go as a parent or do I have to go as a?
Yeah, no, you're on the list, so.
All right, cool. All righty, any other questions or discussion about strategic planning? Ready? Other business? Does anyone have any other business? I just have one piece of other business. We were all brought into the loop via email from Casey that Deb Inferna, the principal at Fairhaven Grade School, was nominated and received the award for being Middle School Principal of the Year, recognized by the Vermont Principals Association. So I know she's not attending tonight, but I wanted to acknowledge that designation and congratulate her and thank her for all of her hard work. Is there anything else about the nominating process that you want to speak to?
She'll be recognized, I believe it's August 2nd, and Jen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, at the VPA, the Principals Academy in Killington will be like the official recognition.
That is
Right,
correct,
Jen?
Brooke. And I think she also, that is correct. And she also, I think, has the opportunity to invite her family to attend and join us for that evening because we'll be at the conference already.
I'll pass along this message, Jen, the next time you see her.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All righty, if no other business, executive session, is anything needed?
I guess back to other business, because I thought executive session, but Brooks evaluation, how's that moving along?
Yeah, well, I've just been really busy. I have done a few things. I've gotten the email addresses of those who are on the executive committee. I reached out to Sue Seglowski and she's responded to me, just giving me some information about the supports that they provide. So very soon I will be sending out an email to those on the executive committee and you, Julie, just to set up a meeting date, an initial meeting date. Probably it'd be virtual, I think, just to start and to get a general sense of how we want to approach this evaluation and whether we want to go on our own and do it or to still use the full services of the VSBA. So that's
Okay.
forthcoming.
All right, thank you.
Any other business? All right, and we said no executive session was needed. And on to agenda building. Next meeting is Monday, the 11th. That'll be a busy week with our informational session being on Tuesday, the 12th, and then the vote on Wednesday, the 13th. What should we be looking out for?
So I have asked Kate, Ben, and Casey, and the rest of us to kind of present on the middle school transition and how that's going. And so that'll be on the agenda. Also, just probably some general, there'll be a finance meeting before the board meeting. So some discussion on the informational meeting and what we'll be presenting on that, at that meeting on the following night. Other than that, hopefully we'll have a lot more contracts or letters of intent. So
Can I just ask you, Brooke or Cheryl, if you're online, is there any new information from Montpelier about weighting study or finalization of yield or anything that would change our calculus at all?
So the waiting study, we believe we might know something by the end of this week, whether or not that's going to be delayed, but we don't know yet.
Delayed, so you're expecting a delay?
We're expecting it could be delayed.
Okay.
And the same is possible around some of the rule changes in special ed that could possibly be delayed a year as well. There's testimony that was given last week. And there's supposed to be a decision later this week as well.
Okay. All righty. Well, this was a really quick meeting. Anything else? That'd be the weather related, right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Bye.